Mr. Speaker, when I was a child and at school, and the class wasn't paying attention, a concession. We never did, and we never will. If probably more than the government, but you choose to exclude us to your own peril. On this issue, unilateralism will not succeed. Mr. Speaker, Venezuela is an adversary who we must confront together. And it is unfortunate that this government refuses to do that. But let me put on the records immediately that we believe the arbitral award of 1899 settled our border issue. We believe that the so-called elections in the Essequibo should be condemned. And one of the marked failures of this resolution is that it failed to condemn. And had you consulted us, we would have told you that it will be remiss of you if you do not condemn Venezuela's attempt to convene elections in our territory. At no stage, at no point in this motion, you see that condemnation. We support our soldiers and condemn Venezuela's aggression against them, even as we bemoan the fact that we urge this government to recapitalize the Guyana Defense Force, and it has failed to do so. Mr. Speaker, let us note that the distinguished Guyanese diplomat and author Mr. Cedric Joseph, noted that, and I quote, Brazil is only one of the neighboring states against which Venezuela has not advanced a territorial claim, unquote. One would have expected that the government would have outlined a clear foreign policy approach to ensure we continuously mobilize the support of those countries, noting what Venezuela portends. Note as well, Venezuela has problems with Caribbean countries with which it has maritime boundaries. We need to, in a structured way, engage these countries and promote our cause of protecting our sovereignty and territorial integrity. You know, Mr. Speaker, when I listened to the minister, I thought Guyana was being run by the International Court of Justice. Everything that he said is what the Court of Justice will do. But he has said nothing about what the government will do. And it is the biggest limitation of this motion. This motion is very limited to the extent that it fails to outline the actions that Guyana will take. Go through the resolve clauses, and they're going to share this here, share this there, but nothing of what the Guyana government will do. Mr. Speaker, and listening to the minister, I felt the Guyana government has a vacancy for a foreign minister. Mr. Speaker, in expressing our support for the last motion, I said the following, and I quote, we have a caveat. It is that we urge the government to put the question of the education of this matter on a permanent basis. We believe that there has to be continuous permanent education as it relates to this matter, unquote. The government did not heed our call. And so there is no proper public education program to educate the people of Guyana and the world. Mr. Speaker, let us recall that we call for the establishment of a commission on the territorial controversy, and that commission must involve a wide cross-section of stakeholders. Let me remind this august body, the government rejected the idea. They averred the view that the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs can serve the same purpose. I hope you remember that. In response to the government's position, we stated at the time that the committee was not meeting. The government promised that it will meet to discuss foreign policy issues, inclusive of the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy. It met once and never again. In our second meeting with His Excellency the President, the issue of the non-functioning of the committee and the question of rotating the chairmanship was discussed in the presence of the foreign minister. The foreign minister committed to convene a meeting and hand over the chairmanship to the opposition. Until now, this has not happened. The government failed to honor its obligation and manifested the usual incompetence and arrogance. How do you expect to obtain our cooperation when you fail to honor your word? How do you expect to obtain cooperation when something as simple as convening a meeting to hand over the chairmanship you cannot do? As a government, you manifest no interest in working with the opposition, and now we are compelled to reciprocate. You cannot choose not to work with us but selectively decide when you want to work with us. I hope you enjoy the reciprocation. Mr. Speaker, education is critical. We must tell all Guyanese and the world that since in the 1960s, in the case of Honduras versus Nicaragua, the International Court of Justice ruled, and I quote, "A state was precluded from challenging previously established boundaries, even though defined irregularly and defective legally, if that state had recognized or acquiesced in these lines or failed to protest against them, particularly when the contagious state relied on good faith upon such acquiescence and had considered the matter finally settled," unquote. Venezuela did just that. For this fact and numerous reasons, we are confident in the victory of good over evil and right over wrong, and support our foreign policy approach and support our case before the ICJ, which we expect to succeed. We have no doubt that the court will rule in our favor. It is in this context that this motion, and I want to pull it up, should have been strengthened in the third whereas clause. The motion should have noted as well that Venezuela accepted the arbitral award for 62 years and even produced a stamp with our present border and celebrated the fact that Guyana lost territory to them. Had we included this in the third whereas clause, we would have strengthened this motion. But as it stands, the inclusion of this fact would have strengthened the motion and serve as very useful information to our people and the world. At minimum, the motion needs to state that the government will take action to ensure patriotism is instilled in Guyanese. There is no action in this motion, none whatsoever. The motion should have stated specifically that the resolution must be circulated to all African states and the African Union, and that special envoys will be sent out to inform and mobilize support for the protection of our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, we cannot ignore the significance of the support of 54 African countries. I take it as an oversight, and the government will rectify it. Mr. Speaker, in this House, we call for the use of oil resources to use as part of our diplomatic offensive against Venezuela and to mobilize countries. The government failed to do it. Probably the major flaw is that this motion does not state what concrete actions the government will take moving forward. It's a banal motion that will merely obligate the government to forward the resolution to a few selected states and institutions. We can and must do better. How could we pass a motion as critical as this, and all we agreeing to in the resolve clause is to send the motion here and there? It makes no sense. Let us recall that in our last engagement on this issue in Parliament, we recommended that special attention be given to border communities, since they are in the forefront of our defense. To date, nothing has happened. I'm saying to you here, Mr. Speaker, that the government has failed in terms of every promise it would have made. In preparation for the previous motion on the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy, government consulted with us, and we arrived at a joint motion which enjoy the support of both parties. Today, you choose a different path. This time around, there was no consultation, Lipsy. You send a motion demanding that our chief whip sign it. We reject such callousness out of hand. We are therefore not obligated to support this motion, since it is you, the government, that has breached our trust and operated arbitrarily. We also recommended that because of the nature of the threat, we should have continuous education. You failed here again. We suggested that we send special envoys to Latin America and the Caribbean nations to inform them and to solicit their support for a cause. You failed again. You believe in parachute diplomacy. Touchdown at a conference, get support. You need to do more than that. We recommended that government take out in Spanish full-page advertisements in key Latin American newspapers. It was not done. You failed the people of Guyana again. You must recall that Venezuela is a Spanish-speaking country, and we need to find ways and means of communicating with Spanish Latin America. We pointed out that it was the era of social media, and we should use social media to promote our cause. You failed to develop such a program. I want to tell you, Kwame, I heard that the president wanted to do it, but you were the tool that caused it not to happen. You are well prepared to use social media to attack our opponents, but you are unwilling to use it to promote and protect our sovereignty and territorial integrity. As a government, you prove to be unpatriotic and not worthy of our support. We recommended a national commission on the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy. You rejected the proposal, contending that the said work could be done by the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs, and promised to convene and have regular meetings of that committee. You want to know when we did that? Go back to the last motion that we were drafting, and your minister could tell you, we placed it in there, and he engaged us to say, okay, let's not fight over it. Let us agree, and the parliamentary committee will function. So don't raise that. You had one meeting, no more. You failed again. In a recent meeting with His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs undertook to turn over the chairmanship of the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs to the opposition, as parliamentary rules dictate. He never did. A failed promise. Mr. Speaker, it was also agreed that the opposition will be kept abreast with developments vis-a-vis the territorial controversy. You never did. It took another shooting incident at the border for you to engage the opposition. You are inactive until Venezuela gets active. That is unacceptable. This government cannot be serious. I said before, we recommended a recapitalization of the Guyana Defense Force. Little or nothing was done. My understanding is that the Army aircraft flies more government officials than Army personnel. There are also reports that the soldiers at our borders are not well taken care of. This must end. Mr. Speaker, This government likes to talk about patriotism. The government calls for patriotism rings hollow. It is difficult to get patriotism in a police state. I want to repeat that for you. It is difficult to get patriotism in a police state. Mr. Speaker, the renowned political scientist and author Andrew Haywood notes that, I quote, "In a police state, the police force operates outside of a legal framework and is accountable to neither the courts nor the general public." He further says, police states have totalitarian features in that the excessive and unregulated power that is vested in the police is designed to curtail civil liberties and create a climate of fear and intimidation in which all aspects of social existence is brought under political control. He continued, however, a police state is not run by the police force in the same way a military regime is controlled by the armed forces. Rather, the police force acts as a private army that is controlled by and acts in the interest of the ruling elite. That is what we have here in Guyana. This definition of a police state aptly describes Guyana today.
Mr. Speaker.
And for this reason,
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I want to condemn in the strongest terms
Honorable Minister, you may get a chance to do your
we have a
condemnation
police state.
when you respond. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, there's an old saying that the truth hurts. I can understand Robertson. The definition of a police state, this definition of a police state aptly describes Guyana today. And for this reason, patriotism is in crisis, and we cannot support this authoritarian and totalitarian regime. We support the people of Guyana in our quest to protect our sovereignty and territorial integrity. However, we will do the people of Guyana a disservice if we support the lawlessness that now characterizes Guyana. And when you want to doubt it's a police state, turn and look at the case of Adriana Young, in which the police didn't operate independently and investigate. More than a week passed and they hadn't taken one statement. And it's a clear case of protecting the elite. Whether you like it or not, the cover-up is now uncovered. Mr. Speaker, all of us know that justice eludes little Adriana Young and the other victims like her because we live in a police state.
Yes, Professor.
Mr. Speaker, as members of the government and His Excellency speak about patriotism, I want to say this to you. Patriotism does not come from the sky. It comes from education and involvement in patriotic activities. I mean, we're so ridiculous. Venezuela is threatening us on the 25th, and we're holding a concert. Patriotism comes when people are being treated fairly in their own country. Most Guyanese do not believe that they are treated fairly. It comes from people's trust in government and national institutions. In Guyana today, there is little or no such trust. We live in a society in which all and sundry know, don't run ropes, that the CCTV cameras work conveniently. If the crime is committed by the elite, their families, their friends and favorites, the cameras do not work. They only work and come alive to prosecute and persecute the poor and the powerless. This is sad, but it is true. We live in a society in which the government seeks to instill fear and wants everyone to kowtow to them. Such a system does not produce patriotism. It produces people who just want to get rid of the government. Here is where most Guyanese are today. They want to see the back of the government. Patriotism comes when people feel a sense of belonging. It comes when people believe they have a stake in the national cake. Guyanese believe and know they get the crumbs while the ruling elite, family, friends, and favorite can shop in Dubai at the expense of the people. It comes when people feel they are treated equally before the law, when there is the existence of the rule of law. Sadly, there is none in Guyana. The law is for the ruling elite, their family, their friends, and their favorites. Patriotism does not come when you misuse the law and incarcerate innocent people under a terrorism law. That produces hostility. Who use it? You. You use it. It was put in place by a government that expected people to live by the letter of the law, not to misuse it. You are misusing a law that was put in place to deal with terrorism. It is you. It is you. It is Robeson Ben. It is your government that is misusing the law. That's all we're saying to you. Patriotism does not come if you charge looters with terrorism. You need to charge them under the appropriate law and end the abuse of the anti-terrorism law. While we do not support looting and violence, we must condemn the government for the misuse of the law and the abuse of power. The law in itself is not wrong. The law in itself is not wrong. It is not properly implemented. Patriotism comes when people know their country, not when they cannot afford to travel their country. Patriotism does not come when it is cheaper to go to the Caribbean than to let them. Patriotism emerges if it is instilled from childhood. It cannot come if you remove. Patriotism cannot come. It cannot come if you remove the singing of patriotic songs from the life of the society, especially the schools. You are destroying the basic practices that lead to patriotism. Patriotism does not come under totalitarianism and dictatorship like we have in Guyana. It does not emerge when government wants to control all aspects of people's lives, as is the current case. It comes when there is a sense of belonging. Guyanese do not feel they belong in this society. It comes when there is the rule of law, and there is none. It does not come with a Speaker of the National Assembly that operates in a partisan way and refuses.
Honorable member, this is a good time for you to seek an extension to conclude. And you may want to watch how you tread on the speaker.
No, I just said the speaker. I never said the speaker. I said a speaker. I'm very careful in the choice of language.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Speaker. I do move that the honorable member be given minutes to continue his presentation.
Honorable members, you may continue.
It does not come with a speaker of the National Assembly that operates.
I urge that you move off from that line.
Mr. Speaker, a National Assembly needs at least at minimum a modicum of impartiality. Mr. Speaker, patriotism does not come when your parliament is a farce. I hope I have offended no one by speaking the truth. I'm not speaking to Venezuela. I've already spoken to Venezuela. I've already said to Venezuela, we support the arbitral award. I've already said to Venezuela, we condemn their action. But I am saying to you in this house now that you are not inclusive and you do not deserve the support. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. As an opposition, we have consistently supported the government on the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy. And we continue to be supportive of the cause. We have said the arbitral award is final. We have said that before. Now that when you finish airing off yourself, let me say this to you. We continue to support the case. We continue to protect our sovereignty and territorial integrity. But we cannot support a government that continues to disrespect the people of Guyana. You know, Mr. Speaker, you heard that, right? Mr. Speaker, you heard that? That piece of parliamentary language? Mr. Speaker, the government is manifesting why they cannot get our support. We say without fear of contradiction, we support Guyana in its quest to ensure the arbitral award is respected. We condemn Venezuela for what they are doing, but we also must condemn the Guyana government for what they are doing to us. The Honorable Minister speaking in chastising Venezuela said, the people of Guyana have a right to live free from fear. We agree, but practice it. Don't come with empty words telling us nonsense. Your motion makes passing reference to the 25th of May, where an election, a farcical election, is supposed to be held. Mr. Speaker, I expected in the presentation that the minister would have been outlining what we will be doing to keep Venezuela at bay. You keep telling us what the ICJ will do. We agree. And so, Mr. Speaker, the enemy, let me address you, Mr. Ramson. The greatest enemy this country has is the government of Guyana. It doesn't change. It doesn't change when you broadcast your tragedy as well. Because what you talking about, you have outlined, you do not understand, young Ramson. A strategy, you can identify the broad elements of an approach. Let me give you an example so that you become a little more educated. You can say that we will take action to establish a people's militia. One, simple. That we will have a robust PR campaign. That we will put resources into border communities so that they are more resilient. You could have said that in this era of information technology, we will invest in technology to ensure that we can help monitor our borders. That is not give away a strategy. Mr. Speaker, I want to make another point. It is reported that in the Rupununi, a security company, without checking, that company has Venezuelans bearing arms. You signal your strategy. When you do that, you signal your strategy. We have a government that can't even give us the figures. One time is 23,000 Venezuelans. The next time is 100,000. You know, does not give away this strategy. That is showing stupidity. Let us be clear. I'm saying to you, as a government, you need to instill hope in the people of Guyana. Nothing that has been said today instills hope. You come over as a hopeless bunch depending on the ICJ. We support the movement to the ICJ, but we are well aware that Venezuela doesn't honor agreements, and therefore you should have already been outlining your strategy as to what Guyanese need to do after the pronouncement. But you come like a descriptive historian relating dates, but cannot tell us anything of substance. Mr. Speaker, I would recommend to the government that they withdraw this motion and let us work together on a joint motion. Mr. Speaker, we would not have been at this point. We would not have been at this point if the government had taken the approach we took over the years of engaging the opposition and let us agree on a joint statement. I can say this to you. I don't want you to agree. Good. So if you don't want to agree, why you want we support? If you don't want us to be involved, why you want our support? And so, Mr. Speaker, I close by making a few comments. We wish to express our appreciation and gratitude to all those countries and organizations that have expressed support for our cause and are contributing to the protection of our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, all Guyanese know, and we are well aware, that Essequibo belongs to us. And we will do everything to protect our sovereignty and territorial integrity. However, we cannot overlook the fact that we live in a police state. We cannot overlook the fact that the state has been criminalized. We cannot overlook the incompetence of this government, its squandering of our resources, the lack of a plan to confront Venezuelan aggression, and their unbridled penchant for domination and control. We cannot support a motion that is weak and only resolves to circulate documents and fails to do anything that is action-oriented, and give hope that we will treat Venezuela as an adversary who wants our territory and ensure Venezuela is kept at bay. We cannot support this innocuous motion in its present form. Mr. Speaker, we urge you to come back to the table and let us work on a motion that all Guyanese will be happy with. It is for that reason, this is the farthest we will go in this presentation. Thank you.